Good evening, you're watching Just the News. I'm Amita Balachandra. Our top story today is on the RBI hiking repo rate by 50 basis points to 5.9% to fight inflation. This was in line with the market expectation as well. But this is the fourth hike in the repo rate since May this year. Now, to give you a context, repo rate is the interest rate at which the central bank lends to commercial banks. In the meantime, the RBI has also reduced the growth projection to 7% for the current fiscal from the earlier forecast of 7.2%. Now, India's retail inflation has stayed above the Reserve Bank of India's upper tolerance level of 6% for 6 straight months since June. In fact, Mrs. Shaktikanta Das said, and I quote, "We've taken a series of measures since April 2022 in the backdrop of geopolitical tensions, sanctions, and supply chain disruptions. We will remain resolute and persevere in our efforts to ensure price stability as well as financial stability while supporting growth." End quote. Now, he said that there were three major shocks to the Indian economy. One is the coronavirus pandemic and the crisis. Subsequently, the Russia-Ukraine war and monetary tightening as well. Meanwhile, mortgage lender HDFC Limited on Friday has hiked its lending rate by 50 basis points hours after the Reserve Bank raised the benchmark interest rate to tame inflation. Now, the move would essentially increase EMIs for housing loans by the firm. Meanwhile, amid the RBI announcements, Sensex rose by 1,000 odd points to close at 57,426.92, while the broader 50 share NSE Nifty gained 276 odd points to finish at 17,094.35. Now, both the indexes posted their biggest percentage jump in a month, breaking a 7-day losing streak. Moving on from the story right now, a Delhi court granted bail to former JNU student Sharjeel Imam in a sedition case pertaining to alleged inflammatory speeches during anti-CAA protests in 2019. However, this comes after he moved a plea seeking relief on the ground that he has been in custody for 31 months. But Imam will continue to remain in jail because of other cases that are pending against him. He's also been booked in connection with an alleged conspiracy related to planning the communal riots that erupted in Delhi in February 2020. Also, according to the Hindu, the Supreme Court Collegium has recommended the transfer of the Chief Justices of Odisha and Jammu and Kashmir High Courts and the appointment of 3 new Chief Justices in Madras, Karnataka, and Rajasthan High Courts. In the meantime, Judge P.B. Varale of the Bombay High Court has been recommended to be made the Chief Justice of the Karnataka High Court. Moving on to politics right now, in a twist actually from what was reported yesterday, Mallikarjun Kharge, senior Congress leader, along with Shashi Tharoor and K. Tripathi, have now filed nominations to contest the Congress party's presidential elections. According to ANI, 10 Congress leaders signed as proposers to Mr. Kharge's nomination. Congress MP Karti Chidambaram is among the proposers for Shashi Tharoor's candidature. Now, Digvijay Singh, who had said yesterday that he would be also filing his nomination, has in fact opted out of the race. Earlier, Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot also did the same after a meeting with Sonia Gandhi in Delhi. The elections will take place on October 17th and the results will be announced on the 19th of October. Meanwhile, according to a report by NDTV, Congress on Thursday has advised its MLAs in Rajasthan to refrain from making public statements against other leaders or about the party's internal matters. Now, Congress General Secretary K.C. Venugopal has warned that strict disciplinary action will be initiated under the party's constitution if the advisory is violated. Now, this comes after the tiff between supporters of Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot and Sachin Pilot as well. On to environmental news right now. This comes in from Delhi, where Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has announced a 15-point winter action plan to fight air pollution. This comes after Delhi has been suffering from bad air quality, and this is something that happens every single year. Delhi is one of the most polluted cities in the world. The plan includes installing 233 anti-smog guns and 150 mobile units of the device to curb pollution. As many as 586 teams have been formed to keep an eye on construction sites in the city and implement the anti-dust plan for the winter. 380 teams are formed for strict adherence to pollution under control certificates and ensure that diesel vehicles older than 10 years and petrol vehicles older than 15 years don't operate. Moving on to news coming in from across the globe, and this is the biggest news that's come in today in the form of a public announcement and much talks of escalation of war in Ukraine. Mr. Putin has declared 4 areas of Ukraine as part of Russia. Now, this comes after a referendum which has been condemned by several other countries. The 4 areas are Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. Now, the formal process to incorporate them into the Russian Federation will happen over the next couple of days. The speech is similar to Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, which also followed a discredited referendum. Speaking at St. George's Hall of the Kremlin with hundreds of dignitaries present, Mr. Putin said, and I quote, "This is the will of millions of people," end quote. Now, Putin also added that the West is trying to bring Russia to its knees ever since the fall of the Soviet Union, and the West is trying to cancel Russia's culture. Now, in the meantime, US President Joe Biden said, and I quote, "US will never recognize Russia's claims on Ukraine's sovereign territory," end quote. Now, according to Associated Press, a humanitarian convoy of vehicles carrying Ukrainian civilians was hit during a Russian missile strike today in Zaporizhia, killing 23 people and wounding 28 others. Meanwhile, in Kabul, at least 19 people are dead after a suicide attack at an education center. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack. Many of those living in the area are from the Hazara minority, which has been targeted in the past attacks. In fact, majority of the suicide bombings have taken place on Fridays, especially after Friday prayers. One piece of good news before we wrap things up here on this bulletin. Good news for the Indian fans of MotoGP, because MotoGP has today confirmed that it will race in India from 2023 with provisional dates set at September 22nd to 24th. Now, the 5.14 kilometer track on the outskirts of New Delhi held Formula One races between 2011 to 2013 before it was dropped from the calendar. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.